ps3 controller, my hands automatically position themselves naturally. My left and right thumbs locate themselves on the D-pad and the buttons, whereas my index finger rests on the L1 and R1 buttons. In terms of position on the controller, my hands are somewhat symmetrical. The controller seems quite small in my hands as the grip only reaches the heel of my palm, meaning there is a lot of space for the controller to move in my hands. The location of the analog sticks relative to the buttons on the D-pad make for easy access when swapping between the two. The grip of the controller goes into a curve towards the back. This is to accommodate the fingers that aren't being used, and there is also a lip on the L2 and R2 to stop your extra fingers from accidentally interacting with them.
The analog sticks. When not playing a game, my hands do not interact with the analogs as they are out of the way of my natural grip. Upon interaction with the sticks, the middle of my thumb rests on the top comfortably. Because the stick is convex, I know that my thumb is touching the top. Interacting with the sticks is done by rolling my thumb on the top. Due to the convex top of the sticks, it is quite comfortable and easy to manipulate the analog. The top of the stick has a somewhat bumpy texture. This gives feedback to the user that their thumb is moving across it. The D-pad. As the pad is naturally covered by the thumb, it is easily accessible if the need arises. The location of the buttons are in a cross shape, making them easily identifiable without looking. This shape also leaves a space in the middle for the thumb to rest when it is not needed. It is possible for me to leave my thumb in the middle and roll it towards the button if I want to press. However, it is common to press the button I need with the tip of my thumb so that I can move my thumb back to the analog stick. Right buttons. The tops of the buttons are flat, making it hard to determine whether or not I have my thumb located in the right place. Pressing these buttons does not give me clear feedback that they have been pressed. As the buttons are located in a cross shape, I can easily identify which button is where by not looking at the controller. The middle buttons. The three middle buttons are slightly awkward to interact with as it involves moving your thumb to the middle of the controller. Due to the position of the analog sticks, you either have to go above or around them to get to the buttons in the middle. All three buttons have a distinct difference from the rest of the controller. Start and select have a different texture to them, as well as a smaller area. The PS button is quite small and out of the way, making it harder to accidentally press. And finally, the L1, R1, L2 and R2 buttons. As the L1 and R1 buttons are slightly convex, I can identify that my fingers are resting on them. It also provides feedback when the button is pressed. To press the L1 R1 buttons, I need to slightly move my fingers from their natural position. Using the L2 R2 buttons requires me to shift my grip to press the trigger down. Pressing the top of the trigger is easier, however it is much more effective to shift my grip to press the bottom of the trigger, as the trigger is more manipulative from this position.
While holding the controller, my hands automatically rest in appropriate positions. For example, my left thumb comfortably sits on the left analog stick. My left and right index fingers slightly rest on the triggers at the back of the controller. My right hand is positioned somewhat different compared to the left. Whilst my left grips the controller, my right palm only lightly touches the sides. This is because the right hand is used for both the analog sticks and the buttons. Due to the location of the analog stick, my right thumb is at a different angle than my left, which allows for an easier shift of focus from the analog stick to the buttons. The design of the controller has a curve between the grip and the trigger. This naturally fits the palm of your hand and allocates space for the less used fingers of both hands, as they go behind the controller and rest beside the battery pack. The analog sticks. Without playing a game, my thumbs comfortably rest in the concave space at the top. However, whilst playing, my thumb does not rest in this space. When using the analog stick, you roll your thumb to move the stick. From there, you use the base of your thumb to roll the analog stick left, right and forward. To move backwards, you use the tip of your thumb to manipulate the analog stick. Both sticks have 4 small nubs on the top. These are located at the top, left, right and bottom of the stick. When your thumb rests on the top, these can easily be felt and give feedback to the user about where their thumbs are situated on the controller. This is very helpful as it does not require you to turn your attention away from the game. However, these nubs perish easily, leaving a smooth analog stick after a while of use. The D-pad. Location-wise, it is similar to the right analog stick. However, to use the pad, you must imitate your right hand in taking a relaxed grip. In design, users may be expected to keep the position of their hand in the same place and rest their thumb on the D-pad, rolling it to press each button. However, in reality, users use the tip of their thumb to press the buttons, meaning they have to shift the grip of the hand to do this. The A, B, X and Y buttons. Symmetrically, this is where my thumb would rest if there was an analog stick, like on the left side. Between the 4 buttons, there is a space that you can use to rest your thumb. Because the buttons are in a cross shape, it is easy to identify the location of these buttons, due to one being at the top, one at the bottom and 2 at the sides. This makes the buttons hard to confuse. If the buttons were located at the points of a square, it would be difficult to identify which is which without looking. The middle buttons. These buttons are used more actively than passively. However, the start back buttons have an indent at the top which I can identify by touch and relative location. The Xbox button in the middle has a metallic feel and a wide area coverage, making it easy to identify as a different button to the rest of the controller. Triggers and bumpers. Due to the concavedness of the triggers, your finger can easily rest on them. When you press them in, you can tell that you have because your finger touches the plastic on the controller at the base of the trigger. The bumpers are somewhat unresponsive if pressed on the side, requiring you to use the tip of your finger to press the button. Unlike the rest of the buttons, these give a distinct clicking sound when pressed, indicating that the button has been pressed. However, if playing a game, you will most likely not hear this due to the sound of the game.